Greetings, everyone. This is Brock, and welcome to with the weekly comic book roundup. And now we'll be covering this week's Spider-Man books and Absolute Carnage tie-in. Absolute Carnage books. So we'll get started with my just Spider-Man Life Story number 6, the teens. So where we left off in the 2000s, Moreland had come and gone, and Peter and Mary Jane's children, who of course have spider powers. Well, they realized that Moreland is actually in a weakened state when he's feeding, and they used that to their advantage and managed to kill him. And Spider-Man briefly got involved in the superhero civil war. So we pick up, and like I said, moving on to the teens. So we begin with Peter explaining that he's been having the same dream lately. Of the day Uncle Ben died and he let the robber get away. And Spider-Man, Peter says it's so real, but the feeling is different this time. The robber runs, but then MJ cuts him off with a kiss and adds that other people's dreams are boring. But he can bore her with his when he gets back safe and sound. And so Peter and Miles Morales go off into space. And we also find out what happened during the superhero civil war. Heroes fighting heroes only leads to one end. The villains win. So apparently Doom has taken over. And Spider-Man and Spider-Man are on their way to a old space lab of Stark's to set off a doomsday machine which will shut down all of Doom's tech on a global scale. And so we also get Miles' background. Bit by a spider, became a hero. So they make it to the lab, and they're working on putting everything together. Though it seems that Miles really doesn't appreciate Peter's levity. But something goes wrong, and so Peter goes to investigate. And the ship has been destroyed. And someone's calling. It's Venom. Well, the combination of Venom and Kraven. So the two of them duke it out, and then Miles comes in, even calling Kraven Sergey. And then Venom begins to let loose the tendrils of his costume into Miles, but then he realizes something different. Also refers to Venom as old friend. However, Peter blasts him apart, and it turns out that all that's left of Kraven is just a skeleton at that point. But it turns out that it's Otto Octavius in the body of Miles Morales, not Miles Morales. But Peter explains to Octo Miles it was little things that tipped him off. Funny sayings, using Kraven's real name. So, the technical work was good, but it was old, outdated. And so the two of them merge minds, and so Spidey fights his greatest foes in his mind. And he brings in other versions of himself versions of himself from other points in time to help. But what it all boils down to is bringing in someone else to help. Aunt May. Who manages to talk to Otto down. But then she convinces Peter to save everyone, which is what he does. And so Peter puts Miles into the escape pod. Does what he can to hold the station together, with some help from the symbiote. And the Doomsday Pulse is activated. And as Peter dies, he dreams of seeing MJ. And he tells her that she's his jackpot, and then the station explodes. Afterwards, Miles finds Parker, or finds Octavius, and tells him, Peter's funeral was today, and also that, first he wanted to kill Otto, but Peter wouldn't do that, so he won't either. And then Mary Jane gives Miles a gift. The old Spider-Man costume. Saying, you already have the name, and you can make you can alter the costume however you want. Make it your own. Something new. But apparently, the dream that Peter was having, the difference to that night is that it's a different dream. It's a good dream. And that's where the issue and the series ends. Alrighty, moving on to the follow-up to Spider-Man Civil War, Spider-Man Velocity. This is, so City at War was an adaptation of the recent Spider-Man video game for the PS4. Velocity is set in the same universe, but after the game. So we begin with Spider-Man fighting with Swarm at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. And he's really he's kind of having fun with the whole thing. But yeah, the bee stings are kind of a pain, especially when he tears his costume because of them. But Swarm escapes. Meanwhile, Mary Jane and Ben Urich are investigating a comedian who is seemingly attacked by a ghost. As they find some video of the whole thing, and so watching the video, walking home, Ben and MJ are attacked by seemingly a ghost. And MJ gets to Peter's apartment. Is Ben, is like, okay, I was attacked by a ghost, all right? he he's there to comfort her, and also show that he's working on on a new armored spider suit, calling it Arachnite, which very nice callback to. I say callback. The concept of Arachnite hasn't even existed for a year, but nice nod to the Infinity Warp. So at the Beagle the next day, MJ is filing the story on the ghost attack, and then, but Robbie tells her, hey, you still got. There's also the thing about the disappearing food. Now, they go into the stacks, and Ben told him about a story about a ghost written by a former reporter. The story involved illegal genetic testing in Oscorp. And so later that night, Peter goes to test out his armor. Referring to himself as Arachnite, though, I'm just like, no, just stop. The armor holds up pretty well until the point when it stops working, and, well, yeah. But even when he's getting beat on, it still holds up, so. But everything manages to fix itself, and he takes out the thugs, and even thanks them for helping him test the armor out. So that night they're having sushi for dinner at a sushi restaurant, and suddenly one of the rolls that Peter's got is suddenly eaten by something invisible, and then their food gets thrown over. All the food in the place gets thrown around, and yeah. There's a voice telling them to get rid of the file. Back off. And it ends with Mary Jane being lifted up off the ground by an unseen force. And that. Which is so totally not a ghost. Or science. Well, Peter suggested it was maybe science, and, well, maybe it is. Alright, on to our Absolute Carnage tie-ins. First off, we got Venom number 17. So, where we last saw Venom, him and Spider-Man were in Ravencroft Asylum trying to rescue Norman Osborn. And then, well, Carnage showed up and turned all of the other inmates into, basically put symbiotes in all the other inmates, and they attacked Spidey and Venom before the two could escape, make good their escape with Osborn. And things aren't looking good for Venom. So he's holding off him and Spider-Man are doing what they can to hold off the symbiote infused inmates. And it's explained that Carnage is not wearing it's not the. Basically, it's explained that Carnage is back and powered up by Null's dragon symbiote, the Grendel, which initially appeared in the pages of the one-shot Venom, which had featured Wolverine and Nick Fury going in. Wolverine, Nick Fury, and some symbiote-infused soldiers in the Vietnam War, I think. Vietnam symbiote-infused soldiers. Wolverine, pre-Weapon X Nick Fury, Wolverine, and Nick Fury. There. But yeah, the fight is not going well. Back at the warehouse, Dylan's worried about his brother. Though apparently the Maker either doesn't realize who people are, which is a distinct possibility. He seems like that kind of jerk. Or it takes him some doing to comprehend that, oh, Dylan thinks that Eddie is his brother, not his rather than his father. So Dylan and Norman Osborn Jr. bond a bit as the Maker finishes up his machine, and he, of course, like, hey, hop in it. And Dylan asks what it is, and Maker explains it essentially performs a symbiote codex isolation and thermal heated extraction process. And so Dylan dubs it Scythe, though Maker's like, actually for children in comic books, machines don't need names. But yeah, they're trying to get him into. They're like, okay, well, the machine's finished, so hey, Osborn child, get in the machine. Though Dylan's like, hey, no. Venom and Spider-Man said they didn't want Normie going into the machine until it was tested first. But we, kind of, well, what if the two of them don't return, huh? What if Carnage is on the way right now? Hunting for anyone with codex wrapped around their spine. And Dylan tells him where the Maker where he can stick it. But then the separation anxiety symbiotes arrive. And they're on the hunt for Norman. Though Maker has some defenses set up. Sonic weapons, presumably also heat weapons. Dylan and Norman lock themselves into a room which also has weaponry. And yeah, even with Maker's stretchy powers and whatnot, symbiotes kind of overpower him a bit. And the weapon, right? And one of them goes after the kids, and noting that Dylan smells like venom. But the Goblin Boy is needed. Well, the Goblin Boy dies for Carnage. Then another symbiote named Sleeper shows up, telling the kids that they can trust him. After all, he's family. Okay then. Now here's where things get a little dicey. So, Absolute Carnage Miles Morales claims that it takes place after Absolute Carnage #2. Here's the thing, though. It doesn't take place after. In fact, it takes place before and during. So yeah, we're gonna start with Miles Morales. As much as this was supposed to come out last week. So we begin in Soho. Miles and Gank are hanging out, and Miles sees a pair of sneakers that he has to have. $300 sneakers. And then there's an explosion, and money's all over the place. Because the Scorpion just attacked an armored car. So Miles suits up and fights the Scorpion. And the two of them duke it out for a while, but then some of the Ravencroft symbiotes arrive. They're after Scorpion. If you'll recall, for a while, Mac Gargan, the Scorpion, was host of the Venom symbiote. During this time, he was a member of initially the Thunderbolts, and later the Dark Avengers. But then the symbiote was removed, and, well, yeah. So, Miles and Scorpion fight the symbiotes, do what they can to hold them off. Though while they agree on a truce, they disagree on methodology. And Miles notices the spiral on their heads. Not that he's seen it before. Someone who tried to kill him, and he knows that it's the mark of something ancient and evil. So basically, I mentioned they had a disagreement as to methodology. Scorpion is basically thinking of, hey, they're trying to kill me, so I'm going to try and kill them right back. Miles is like, hey, they're possessed, so we can't just kill them. They're not doing this of their volition. Scorpion also it's kind of the opinion, where's the fun in not killing them? But yeah, then Carnage himself arrives. And he goes after Scorpion. But Miles manages to take him down with a Venom Blast. And then Venom shows up. But he takes Scorpion with him, and leaving Miles to deal with the symbiotes on his own. But Carnage has a better idea than killing Miles. He'll make Miles part of the family. And so Miles is then possessed of a symbiote, which Carnage calls a perfect little monster. That's really the only part that happens after Absolute Carnage number 2. So, moving on to Absolute Carnage number 2. So we begin with Carnage narrating. Say that Cletus Cassidy is dead. Long live Cletus fucking Cassidy. Piloting my new Carnage machine into every gaping hole in this mannequin-filled city. Kill enough and I awake my god. And then this world falls under a waterfall of blood and enters a new universe of dark. And whoo boy, I will be there. Sucking the last sweet shivering breaths out of its rotting, maggot-filled, bloated corpse. Dancing all silly and spine-broken to the universe's death rattle. I am the gore emperor of 1,000 dead stars. I am a new colossus of bleeding red Megadeth. I am the red right hand of the King in Black, and I am the end of the world as you fucking know it. And I feel like a drink. So we get back, we basically go back to Venom and Spidey trying to escape. Venom says to Spider-Man, we can't win this. So, they make their way out. They jump. And Venom forms some wings and flies the two of them away. And the other Cletus Cassidy, Norman Osborn, who thinks he is Cletus, who thinks he is Cletus Cassidy because of his exposure to the Carnage symbiote when he was Red Goblin, he's like, why aren't we following them? But Carnage says that they are. There's just nowhere that they can go. It's kind of interesting to see basically two different Carnages. So they crash land on a building, and it's kind of okay. We've got to get everyone that's been exposed to a symbiote and get them to Maker's machine and pull the codex out of them. And Venom said, okay, we go call Captain America and Wolverine, and Spider-Man says, how about I handle those guys? And Venom's not too keen on the idea that basically, Spidey is like, hey, I'll handle the heroes. You handle, the bad guys. So things aren't going too well with Maker. We just get a brief panel, kind of, but turns out that Anne, Eddie Brock's ex-wife, her body wasn't in the mass grave. Meaning Carnage didn't dig her up. Which makes no sense to Eddie because she would have had a codex in her. However, Maker has a theory. Basically, he doesn't think she had the codex in her when she died. He thinks that Dylan is the codex. And she passed it down to him. Then Venom hears the commotion of all of the Ravencroft inmates, all the Carnageized Ravencroft inmates. And we cut to the Spire, miles on the streets of New York, where Carnage is basically running things. And Norman's there too, but he doesn't. He thinks he's Cletus Cassidy. So when Carnage calls him Norman, he's like, what'd you just call me? And Carnage explains, I called you Norman because that's who you are, little Norman Osborn, playing dress up because I allow it, because it amuses me. Yeah, let's get the one thing straight. There's only one Carnage in this house. Norman says that, when Carnage starts this little spree of his, there's going to come a time when the two of them are going to have to square up. One of them is going to have to die to collect all the pieces of the Codex. And Carnage says, start? What do you mean? That's what I've been doing. And we get little glimpses of all the tie-ins, including Lethal Protectors, which has yet to actually be, which kind of sort of came out, but also kind of sort of didn't. My shop only got the variants, but we'll be getting the actual normal copies. We get a clip from Deadpool. We get a clip from Scream. We get a clip from Miles Morales. We even get a clip from Separation Anxiety. Back to Miles Morales. Him and Scorpion are fighting off the things go. That's one thing. Things go a little bit differently, or at least we get some more detail. Venom tries to save Scorpion and Miles Morales at the same time, but Carnage shows up and he does at least partially. He does some damage to Mac. When all is said and done, when Venom, or when no, not Venom, when Miles gets Venom off of him, and Venom tries to get Mac out of there, Mac says that he can't feel his legs. So, but. And apparently Venom sees the carnageization of Miles Morales. We've also got the initial behavioral assessment of Norman Osborn. And a transcribed version of their the evaluation of Osborn by Clay McLeod Chapel. Or by Dr. Treadwell. And he insisting that he's Cletus Cassidy, not, and it's something, all right. And that is where the issue comes to its close. Not gonna lie, I really dig this. I'm really digging Absolute Carnage. Anyway, as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.